I would like to just introduce our speaker now. Armaiti actually came to our rescue, I guess, almost a year, well, it was December of 2015, when they started wanting to cut the trees in the Oxford Dhun bird sanctuary, okay? And so we started protesting, and she joined the protest and brought a lot of vegan friends along. So one day she called me up and she said, you know, I've helped you a lot, right? And so I knew, you know, that turnabout was probably in the offing. And so she said she wanted me to come see Cowspiracy, which is up there. And she is fiercely vegan, and I admire that a lot. You know, if you've ever gone to Costa Rica, you see that our rainforests get cut down to provide food for cows for 5 years. 5 years. And then it's over with. The rainforest has been destroyed, and no cow can exist on what comes off of it after 5 years. So when I went to Costa Rica, I felt like, God, I don't think I can ever eat meat again. I have to admit I do, but on a much more limited basis than before. So I'm going to turn this over to Armaiti. I think that you're going to find what she has to say fascinating, and that I'd like her to tell the story. So Armaiti, and then, yes, and her mom, Dhun. When Armaiti doesn't come to our meetings, Dhun always says something about what? Being a vegan. So what I asked them to do is to do a presentation together so that we have both mother and daughter. And so with that, I'm going to turn over the mic.
Thank you, Jeanette and Kathy, for hosting this, and thank you to the Sierra Club for allowing us the opportunity to present to you all tonight about the importance of a plant-based diet for our planet. I've been a practicing veterinarian in the LA area for close to 12 years now, and a vegan advocate, and this is an issue that's very dear and near to my heart.
Well, okay, I want to thank everybody, especially Jeanette and the other people on the board of Sierra Club, for this opportunity for Armaiti and myself to be able to share with you what we can do to help our planet by going on a plant-based diet, and also how it's actually going to help each of us personally.
Okay, so I'd like to get all of your involvement. So this is a fun and interactive presentation. So let's just see a show of hands. Who here in the audience is already following a plant-based diet? Oh, wow. Fantastic. Okay, so about half, or maybe a little more than half. That's great. Well, my goal is that by the end of tonight, all of your hands will be going up. Yeah. So when it comes to land use, does anyone want to hazard a guess how many acres it takes to support a meat eater's diet for 1 year? How many people think it's just 1 acre? Anyone? A couple people think it's 1 acre. How about 2 acres? What about 3 acres? So that's how much land, 3 acres, is required in order to sustain a meat eater's diet for 1 year.
Just for one person.
Per person, correct.
Okay, so let's talk about people who are on a plant-based diet. Anybody want to guess how much acreage is required for one person to be fed for 1 year on a plant-based diet?
Less than 1 acre?
You said half an acre?
Half an acre.
That's close. Yeah, you think it's 1 acre? Okay, well,
little less than that, actually.
Actually, it's 1/6 of an acre, as compared to 3 acres for someone on a standard wheat diet. Of course, they also eat plants, but so that's a factor of 18 we're talking
18
about.
times as much land is required to sustain a meat eater compared to a vegan. So that is hugely significant. Now let's talk a little bit about water. How much water do you think is required to produce 1 pound of edible beef? Someone said 500 gallons. Sarah?
1,500 gallons.
Getting closer.
2,500 gallons.
And there is a range depending on how the cows are raised. There can be variability there, but one of the estimates is 2,500 gallons. It can be as much as 5,000 gallons for 1 pound of beef, which is astronomical. Now, compare that to some of the plant foods. How many gallons is required to produce a pound of potatoes, do you think? Anyone? If beef is 5,000 gallons, for a pound of potatoes,
1 gallon.
just 30 gallons. For a pound of bananas, 102 gallons. What about tofu? Who here likes to eat tofu? You're eating it tonight, whether you realize it or not, because all the food we got was tofu based. So yeah, it's 244 gallons for 1 pound of tofu versus how many gallons is required for a pound of chicken flesh? Boo, that's right, 815 gallons. Huge amount.
Yeah, and even some of the crops that do require a lot of water, that are plant-based crops, such as almonds, for example, which you may have heard do require a lot of water. Even almonds, 1 pound of almonds only requires about 368 gallons of water. So compared to a pound of edible beef, which requires close to 5,000, and it does vary, okay, sometimes it is maybe even half that much, but nevertheless, it is so much less than for beef. And now there are a couple of things like chocolate and pistachios, which do require quite a bit of water, but even those items, which are the highest, most water-intensive plant-based items, they're still a lot lower in their water consumption than beef, for example.
And most people don't eat pounds of pounds of chocolate and pistachio nuts,
right.
Realistically.
So generally for fruits and vegetables, it just goes in the range from about 20 to 60 or so gallons of water for 1 pound of produce. So there's just a big difference between eating plants and eating animals as far as water consumption.
Absolutely. So now I guess we're going to move on to the greenhouse gas emissions that are created by the livestock industry, and that is a huge concern with climate change and global warming. The transportation sector is a very small percentage of the amount of emissions created by the livestock industry. In fact, about 51% of worldwide greenhouse gas emissions come from the livestock industry.
How much rainforest is left?
Rainforests, we're getting down to less than 20% of what used to be just a few decades ago. It's really startling. Every single second, 1 to 2 acres of rainforest is destroyed.
Yeah, every single second, not minute, but second.
It's astounding.
Already, we've been talking a whole lot of acres have been destroyed.
So that means a whole football field worth of rainforest is gone every second, and most of that is to clear for cattle grazing. It's not for furniture for people's homes.
Or for feed for cattle or other livestock.
Grass-fed beef.
Right, and let me just add something else. A lot of this, if not most of it, or all of it, is genetically modified corn or soybeans. And there's a lot that can be said about the harm that it does to the environment just because it's genetically modified. And the corn, they put in a special toxin called VT for short, which can't be washed off, and there are many dangers from it, just to say it briefly. And somebody had a question over here?
You answered my question.
Oh, okay.
So the BT, is that bacillus whatever?
Yes.
And they're saying that's
Yeah, you know.
terribly harmful? Are you saying?
It's absolutely, yeah, I mean, they've done studies that have shown gastric problems in animals that are fed the corn, and then there's been an increase in gastric disorders in people in the same time frame during which the GMO corn has been introduced. So it's highly suspicious for that.
Yeah. There may even be some link to autism and whatnot, with some of the genetically modified things.
So, as far as the greenhouse gas emissions, those consist of methane, nitrous oxide, and carbon dioxide, which is caused by destruction of trees and vegetation. And these are very important for the regulation of carbon dioxide and oxygen in our atmosphere. The rainforests are basically like the lungs of our planet. So they sequester carbon dioxide and they produce oxygen. So it's very alarming that so many trees are being destroyed to the point where we are having an excessive amount of carbon dioxide. Methane is also a big issue because that is one of the emissions from the livestock industry, and it's 23 times as potent in its global warming effects compared to carbon dioxide. About 40% of all methane produced by human activities is from livestock. And this has gotten to the point where atmospheric conditions have risen 145% in just the last 15 years.
Yeah, so more than double. That's more than double. Greenhouse gases have increased.
That's right.
Well, of course, these are the greenhouse gases related to human activity, as opposed to volcanic activity or other natural activities.
Another thing to mention is nitrous oxide, one of the greenhouse gas emissions, and that is actually 310 times more powerful a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Livestock industry generates 65% of all human-related nitrous oxide. So we are seeing decimation of our rainforests, and they are responsible for producing 20% of the Earth's oxygen. Yet every second, as we said earlier, 1 to 2 acres of rainforest are destroyed in the Amazon, and this is largely due to raising livestock.
Okay, and also I just want to say that this demand for meat, dairy, and eggs is substantially driven by aggressive marketing. Our government actually subsidizes meat production, and this provides these industries with the additional funds to do a lot of marketing. And people think, you know, it's good for them to eat certain things which are not really healthy. And it is resulting in the destruction of massive amounts of rainforest areas, the pollution of our water, and the production of greenhouse gases. Here are some staggering details. Rainforests, the exquisite lungs of our planet, produce over 20% of the Earth's oxygen. I guess this was already mentioned. 136 million rainforest acres have been cleared for animal agriculture. The meat and dairy industries use about 1/3 of the Earth's fresh water. Over 110, someplace I saw 137. Over 110 animal and insect species are lost every day. due to rainforest destruction. The destruction of natural habitats in order to establish grazing or cropland for livestock is the leading cause of biodiversity loss. There are thousands of plants in rainforests which have medicinal properties, including anti-cancer properties, and I think we'll get into that later. And also for other diseases. And most of them haven't even been discovered yet.
There are a number of anti-cancer property medications that are sourced from rainforests, such as vincristine, that is a very commonly used medication for treating leukemia, Hodgkin's disease, and other cancers. And without the rainforests, we are losing the ability to treat diseases that we may not even know what is available to us. And other chemical components that have been derived from rainforests include Curare, which is a muscle relaxant used in surgery, Oebane, which is a heart medicine, quinine for malaria and pneumonia, emetine for bronchitis and dysentery. In fact, 1/4 of all prescription drugs and over 70% of all cancer treatments originate from the rainforest.
And there are many other plants, who knows how many, that are actually known by the indigenous people who are diminishing at an alarming rate. Even the people who live in the rainforests are disappearing. There were, I believe, 6 to 9 million of them hundreds of years ago. Now they're just in the thousands. I don't have the exact number offhand. And also, in addition to medicinal plants, rainforests also have fruits, nuts, oils. And wise people, sometimes known as shamans, who really have learned how to use the plants for medicines and other purposes.
So when these medicine men are lost, we're losing thousands of years worth of knowledge that has been passed down from one generation to the next.
Yeah, and most of them now are like over 70 years of age, and if they haven't passed on their knowledge to the younger people, once they're gone, a lot of knowledge is going to be gone, and there are very few of them left. Livestock operations on land have created more than 500 nitrogen-flooded dead zones in oceans around the world. So that's getting into the problem of ocean, water pollution, water pollution.
Could you speak more about what nitrogen flooding means?
Well, the nitrogenous waste from the factory farms, which are byproducts of raising animals for food, of course, have to go somewhere. And these vast swaths of land are not irrigated appropriately, that they don't have the proper systems for water management and waste management. So what ends up happening is all these chemical wastes, along with the manure, which is full of nitrogen, gets swept up into the streams and the rivers, and that ends up in our oceans, which leads to algal overproduction and overconsumption of oxygen, which leads to these dead zones that Dhun was just talking about. Pollution is a real devastating issue that is causing destruction of ocean life at an alarming pace, in conjunction with the overfishing to meet demand for eating the bodies of fishes and other aquatic animals that live in our oceans. And it's gotten to the point where 3/4 of fisheries are either depleted or near depletion. At this rate, by the year 2048, scientists are predicting that most of our oceans will be devoid of sea life, which is a really frightening thought.
Nearly half of the continental United States is devoted to animal agriculture, meaning land used for grazing and land used for growing crops fed to livestock.
So this is all overwhelming and depressing. So the good news is that we can actually turn this around. And we have the power to do that with what is at the other end of our fork. Now, maybe a lot of you are used to eating certain foods, and that's completely understandable. We all have our favorite foods. The good news is you can get every favorite food you want, and then some, from a vegan source. There are amazing vegan cheeses, plant-based milks, vegan ice creams, and plant-based meats that are getting better by the day. There are companies like Beyond Meat and Gardein, and I have some coupons if everyone wants to try the Beyond Meat products and Gardein at Whole Foods. These are really good products that are out there for people who are craving animal protein. The fact is, we are brainwashed, really, by the meat and dairy industries from a very young age to believe that we need animal protein to be healthy. And nothing could be further from the truth. The fact is that we get more protein than we need, and animal protein actually causes strain on the kidneys, it increases the risk for cancer, causes a host of health problems. And you can read about that through the China study by Dr. T. Colin Campbell, which is featured in the documentary Forks Over Knives. Really good documentary you can watch on Netflix. So we can actually be healthier by protecting the planet and eating these plant-based foods. There's so many great alternatives, whether it's tofu, lentils, tempeh. Tempeh is fermented soybeans, and it's been consumed by the native people of China for thousands of years. The China study, which was done back in the 70s by Dr. T. Colin Campbell and other researchers, showed that the Chinese that ate a plant-based diet had drastically lower rates of mortality from cardiovascular disease, as well as degenerative diseases such as cancers of the prostate, colon, and breast. All these cancers that we keep hearing about on the news, how people are trying to race for a cure, but they're not really talking about the root cause in most cases and how we can prevent these cancers. And what's even more amazing is that a lot of these cancers can even be reversed with a plant-based diet if they're caught early enough.
Right, as indicated in that documentary, Forks Over Knives. Yeah.
Very inspiring stories. A woman who had stage 4 breast cancer that had already metastasized to her bones. And she did have a mastectomy, but she elected not to do chemotherapy or radiation therapy. She went on a whole foods plant-based diet. And she reversed her disease and has been in thriving health for decades.
I just want to kind of add to what you just said about whole foods vegan diet, because there is also such a thing as junk food vegan diets. And even some of the pamphlets that are available here unfortunately have pictures of things that look like white flour to me. So, you just have to kind of use your judgment and really pick the whole foods, the natural foods, the way God made them, are what we should be eating.
And that is the ideal, to be on a whole foods, organic, ideally, a vegan diet. But even if finances don't permit exclusively organic purchases, you can rest assured that you are actually taking in fewer pesticides into your body, even if you eat inorganic plant foods, by consuming the plant foods directly compared to if you're eating animal products, because the biomagnification of pesticides is so huge that you're actually going to be consuming more of these toxic chemicals by consuming meat and dairy products compared to plant foods directly.
Right, and for example, fish now has mercury and other heavy metals, so, and PCBs as well are found in fish.
Yeah, it's virtually impossible to find seafood that's not contaminated with mercury and other toxins. So it's for the betterment of our health, for the preservation of our planet, and also, very importantly, for out of respect for our fellow Earthlings that share this planet with us, and they deserve to live just as much as you and me.
Right, and for future generations, I mean, if things keep going at the rate that it's going, we're going to lose more and more animals that, we want to have, fish and other, we're losing like about 110 animals every day. because of the destruction in the rainforest. So what's going to happen to our grandchildren? You know, for their sake, we need to start taking measures to save what is left of the rainforest.
Absolutely. For future generations, I mean, think of your children and your grandchildren. What kind of planet do you want to leave behind for them? So, as important as it is to take public transportation when that's available, or carpool, use less electricity, and all these things we've been taught save water, the biggest thing you can do, the most powerful choice you can make to help save this planet and the creatures who live on it is to go vegan. And whether you want to make that step cold tofu and do it tonight, and I applaud you if you do, or you want to make more gradual steps, that's okay too. But I ask that you make a commitment to make a change that at least is moving towards a plant-based diet. Whether it's starting with one meal a day, instead of bacon and eggs, have oatmeal. Raisins, walnuts, make wonderful condiments. Blueberries, bananas, you can make smoothies. What are some quick lunch ideas that you have?
Well, you can always have guacamole with maybe some relatively healthy chips. They're not maybe the most healthy things.
Or Ezekiel bread?
Oh yeah, Ezekiel bread really is a very good brand because it's sprouted and it's organic and it's whole grain and so on, yes. And you can have, you know, you can just pick up things from places like Trader Joe's and Whole Foods, and even the regular stores now like Albertsons and Vons, they carry baked tofu. You can get hummus, and you know, better to get the organic kind. You can get almond milk for your cereal.
Absolutely. So Trader Joe's is a very easy access place for most of us who live on this side of town, and a lot of other places that have access to these outlets that have meatless options. They have meatless meatballs, they have a ready-made lentil, a pre-cooked lentil pack. You just toss it in some salad or heat it up really fast and you have a meal. It doesn't have to be hard or complicated or confusing. You don't have to pore over recipe books for hours upon hours. I mean, I'm a busy person. A lot of us here are busy people, and we don't have time to pore over recipe books. You know, for those who want to do that, that's awesome, but you can do it a quick way too. It doesn't have to be super difficult.
Absolutely, just heat up, you know.
And please do take a brochure at the table, which has not only recipes, but also nutrition guidance. I do want to mention a few things about nutrition, the importance of B12. People should supplement with a B12 supplement. It's important for nerve function and memory, as well as energy. Now, B12 is actually sourced from bacteria. It is not technically an animal product, so the reason that it finds its way into animal products is because of the bacteria from all the excrement and so forth that finds its way in there. But we can get it a cleaner source by taking a supplement. I take a sublingual B12, I get it from Whole Foods Market. You can get it at Trader Joe's and a lot of other places too.
Yeah, and even if you just take a multivitamin, a good quality multivitamin, you'll get B12.
Don't worry about protein. It's nearly impossible to be protein deficient.
I'm just curious though, if plant-based diet is the best diet, why do you need supplements?
Why do you what?
Need supplements. You shouldn't be able to get
You don't need, if you were to actually look at the supplements that a typical standard American meat eater would need, I mean, they're way deficient in fiber. And that leads to chronic constipation and a whole host of other health problems.
But that's not what
And a bunch of other, they're deficient in antioxidants, they're deficient in phytonutrients.
But that's not what I'm asking.
So, but to answer your question, vegan diet, while it may still be benefited by supplements, in the ancient days when we didn't have as much sanitary conditions, we didn't need to supplement B12 because the soil that was on the produce was giving enough B12 for our needs.
Yeah, but what days were those?
The days before the sanitary regulations and industrialized.
They were 35 on those days.
The days before I was on this planet, let's put it that way.
The days that people died when they were 35 for whatever they got.
Well, you know, there are various causes of illness, and right now what we're seeing in epidemic is childhood obesity, what used to be called adult onset diabetes, which is now called type 2 diabetes, because so many children are afflicted with diabetes who never used to be, because of all this GMO food, processed food, animal products, heavy, high animal protein and fat foods that are shoved on our plates. You're a school teacher, you know what goes on in these schools.
Yeah, so I want to say a few words about that. Children are getting fatter, and their behavior has also gotten worse. I've been, and,
Wait, but what children?
all right,
What children?
I'm sorry?
What children? Where are these children?
Well-
In the United States, yes?
Yeah,
Do we find them in any other countries besides the United States?
well,
Maybe some other countries, like Argentina, for example.
well, I don't know about
Well, what
other
I'm saying
countries.
is, this is the United States. We have too much food here. We
Right,
have so
right,
much
exactly.
Of all kinds of food.
Yeah,
And you can become obese on a vegetarian diet.
absolutely,
You can
absolutely.
become obese, and really, the problem in this country with obesity is more the quantity of food.
There's no question about
It
that.
also is the calorie density of the food.
Right,
So if you were to eat to satiety, meaning to the point where you feel full and satisfied and wouldn't even have the desire to eat more food, eating beans, it's almost impossible to overeat. Versus if you eat a bag of cheese or butter or meat or eggs, these are devoid of fiber. They have zero fiber. Animal products have no fiber whatsoever. So you can eat till the cows come home and you're still not going to be full because you haven't filled your satiety needs, even though the calorie needs have been vastly overreached.
Tell that to my son. I can eat enough beans to be really full.
okay, well, you know,
That's what I'm saying. You can eat enough beans
well,
to meet
okay,
your calorie needs
right,
and your fiber needs.
okay, I mean.
Same with vegetables
Okay.
and fruits that all have fiber. And beans are also a good source of protein.
Right. I mean, yeah, I mean, you can get filled up even on, feel filled up even on meat, but nevertheless, what I really wanted to say, and I'll call on you after this point I want to make, I'm really interested in what's going on in schools here in the United States that I know about most. And there's just a lot of indoctrination that comes from the dairy industry and the meat industry. There are health booklets, so-called nutrition booklets that are used in the classrooms. And if you read the fine print, they're from the Dairy Council of America. And children are pretty much forced to take their milk and certain other products from animals on their trays when they're having their lunch, unless they bring their own lunches. They're not really encouraged to bring their own lunches. And a lot of it actually also gets wasted. They pour the milk out into the trash can and so on. And and as mentioned already, you know, there's an increase in obesity and type 2 diabetes and their behavior problems. And sometimes you actually see children behaving a little bit differently after lunch. Partly it's due to maybe the sugar they've had, whatever the reasons are. But there is a school in Calabasas that is actually serving entirely vegan lunches. And the behavior there apparently is quite good. The children's behavior is impacted. They tend to be calmer when they're eating healthy food. So I just want to say it's really important, and what we can do actually to help our children is, you know, talk to the school principal or go to Board of Education meetings and try to have them make a shift to a healthier diet for children, and give the children the really true information about nutrition rather than the half-truths. I mean, they do tell them eat your fruits and vegetables. I mean, but that's also mixed in with, you know, information that's not entirely accurate about the benefits of milk and meat and so on. So
The so-called benefits.
yeah, so-called benefits,
Which are not
exactly.
beneficial.
I mean, they mix things that are true with things that are not true, and that makes you kind of accept all of it. I know when I was in school, they used to say milk is the perfect food, which of course it is for baby cows. Okay? So anyway, I think, you know, if we could maybe speak up for the kids, it would be a good thing. Yes, question?
I was vegetarian before veganism. A couple of younger women tried the vegetarian diet. They were doing it on their own though, and they became anemic. So what can you say to that?
Thank you for that question. So the question is, she was vegetarian for a while and she became anemic. So what should we do about that? So actually, iron deficiency anemia is no more common in non-vegetarian than in vegetarians than it is in non-vegetarians. However, it is true that plant-based iron sources are not as well absorbed as animal-based iron sources. So there are some recommendations in the booklet we have on the table, but just a few tips I would recommend are eat your leafy greens and make sure you have vitamin C in conjunction with your iron-rich foods, which include things like dried nuts, dried fruits, as well as nuts and seeds and leafy greens.
I have a favor. It's really distracting with that light.
Am I?
Could you turn off the light?
Yeah. This light?
That, the project, or if you just
Am I doing
to
something
the other
wrong?
side. There's a
Sorry.
projector, see, this is reflecting light from the cage.
I like it off too. It's kind of bothering me too. Thank you. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Does anyone else have a question or a comment to share? Yes, you in the back.
About how much time do you spend preparing food on maybe a daily or a weekly basis?
So the question is about the time preparation for food preparation, or time involved for food prep. It varies. For me, I try to prepare some things in advance. I also eat out a little bit, and then I have a veg and out food delivery that I share with my dad. So it's a little hard to calculate exactly, but there are definitely ways to save time. Like one example is to make a big pot of bean chili, like once a week, and then freeze whatever you don't eat that day in Tupperware, and then just thaw out whatever you're going to eat throughout the week. Or if you were just going to make enough for a couple days, it'll stay good in the fridge for several days. You can also buy like pre-chopped vegetables to throw together for salads, or just have it prepared in your refrigerator from a day that you had time to spend a little more time doing that, and then you just kind of assemble it when you get home from work or whatever.
Yeah, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
don't spend any more or any less time eating vegan than I did eating other stuff. It's really no different. And they make so many details, right? So many things that you can buy prepared that are really good. That it's not, I mean, I don't know how much time you have at home. But if you're a person that's into making things from scratch, that's great. If you're not, you can really go into a regular market and find things that are, am I right? Amazing.
That's right.
Or vegan foods.
Hummus,
Or
chips,
vegetarian. Yeah.
trail mix, salsa.
I'm wondering what the audience, people that are vegans, what they eat.
Yeah, let's get some from input from the vegans in the audience. Does anyone want to share a typical meal plan?
Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Okay, well, you mentioned the vegan cheeses, which, there's all this brouhaha now coming from the dairy industry as to, it shouldn't be called cheese, but in fact, the vegan cheeses are absolutely exquisite. And I would particularly recommend one brand called Miyoko's.
Yes.
I mean, the range of flavors, Miyoko. She just got Miyoko. I find them at the Santa Monica Co-op, but I know they're available in other places as well. And I know she just got a huge infusion of money from somebody as an investor. And I mean, terrific cheese. But in any case, I also eat a lot of the field roast products. Again, I get those at the Santa Monica Co-op. You can get Italian sausage. There is a chipotle sausage. There are other types of sausages that are so authentic tasting. And then if you want to do, you know, like a bratwurst with sauerkraut, just delicious, and it's all vegan. My daughter and I just drove back from Washington, D.C., California last week, and in every municipality we found terrific vegan restaurants, including Knoxville and Memphis. In Memphis, I mean, an unbelievable vegan barbecue joint, and then Oklahoma City, Albuquerque, Flagstaff, they all had great vegan restaurants. And I mean, I just would tout all of those things, including, as you said, hummus is a great source of protein, and you can find all varieties today. And if you want to make your own yogurt cheese, you just take a coconut yogurt, coconut milk-based yogurt, and drain it over paper towels, and you've got your Lebanese or yogurt cheese. I mean, there are just so many options, really.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, if you can support your own local farmers.
Farmers markets.
With farmers markets or Farm Fresh to You, will send you a box of vegetables, and then you can be introduced to new things.
Right.
So you're not preparing something, either the same old thing, or the best thing is you're also including them in income.
Right.
So that's very nice.
And I just wonder, okay, Kim, go ahead, and then after that, Kathy, maybe you can share what you learned at the event you went to recently, if you want to. Okay, okay, Kim, go ahead.
I would just to.
Is my mic on?
Yeah, right here.
That's good.
So,
There we are. Go ahead.
Can I
Okay,
say
Kim. Yeah. Oh.
All right. Quinoa is an incredible protein type of food that I use. And one thing about buying prepared vegetarian items, you have to be so careful because they're filled with salt. So much salt. Trader Joe's is impossible that way. So that's one of the drawbacks.
Okay, Douglas?
Also, you want to
Want to take the
support
mic?
your local vegan cafes and restaurants.
Yeah.
I just want to let you know there's a new
Douglas,
cafe.
here you go.
I'll speak really loud.
No, it doesn't work.
Okay,
I hope this is on.
as long as I'm not singing, that's okay. I'll hold it. Hi everybody, I'm Doug. It really hits home why you need to go vegan, not only for the plants and animals, but for your own health. And this especially goes to old people like me. I had a coworker, his name was Simeon. Beautiful man. We talked about family, cars, his bad heart, and everything. But tragically, he had a heart attack recently, and tomorrow will be his service. Heart failure. And we talked about being vegan, going to a plant-based diet, getting off the pharmaceutical medicine, maybe using organic supplements, and I said, you might be able to live for another 10 years. It really hits home when you lose somebody that you love. So that's another good reason to do it. Also, since we're promoting everything vegan, Avo is a new cafe at the shores in Santa Monica. Those big 2 towers down on Nielsen Way, those twin towers. They took the snack shop that served greasy fried food and sugars and stuff that's not good for you, and they put in a little all vegan organic cafe. They're having an open house on Sunday, this Sunday, or February 26th, complimentary appetizers and refreshments 4 to 6 p.m. So I'm going to set this over on the table over here. Pick one of these up if you like. And if you go there on Thursday nights, Mark, the husband, plays piano and sings. He is amazing. He is absolutely amazing. He starts at about 6 p.m. and food's great. And it's a beautiful family. It's a wonderful thing. The more of these we have, the better. So support them.
How's parking?
The shore is a good question. You go and you park. There's guest parking when you pull in, right off the Nilsson Way. You go into the office and say you're going to Avo. They'll give you a little pass. You go and put it on your car. There's 30, 40 spaces. It's a small cafe. It seats about 20 or 30. So it's a beautiful family thing. Sundays the kids come in and play games. It's a nice place to be. They're fair. Yeah, it's Cher and Mark are the owners, and they're vegan and they're wonderful people. They're just getting started.
Thank you. And happycow.net is a great resource for finding local vegan and vegetarian restaurants, as well as restaurants that cater to vegans and have some options. So go to happycow.net. You can also put the app on your smartphone. It's really a handy thing when you're traveling, especially. Sarah?
Hi everybody. I just wanted to say a quick word about alcohol. Some of you may or may not drink alcohol. If you do drink wine and you're not vegan, you're drinking fish guts. If you look it up on Google, it's true. I told my neighbor when I lived in Marina Del Rey, and he looked it up and was like, wow, you're right. I was like, I wouldn't lie to you. So if you get the app Barnivore, it's BARNIVORE, Barnivore, without the C instead of carnivore. You can look up eco-friendly wines that are organic. They're actually cheaper than regular wine. So just think about that. A lot of people drink alcohol and they get hangovers from wine, and it's because of all the preservatives and all the other crap in the wine without the grape. So even if you don't plan on going vegan today, please try and drink better wine. You can get it for $8.99 or $9.99. I'm not a huge alcohol drinker, but those of you that do like to enjoy wine, I would like for you to leave out the fish guts, because it's just kind of disgusting. But anyway.
If you eat fish, which some of these people do, then what's the difference for them to drink wine that's made out of fish guts? I mean, it's gross to us, we're vegan, but for the people that eat fish.
Yeah, well, the mercury is going to eventually kill you because of the overfishing and the mercury in the water. And in Japan, particularly, the mercury rates are extremely high, and they feed the kids dolphin meat from the dolphins that they leave behind, from the dolphins that people go and take their kids to swim with. So yeah, I would just ask that you just leave cruelty off your plate in general. I'm a plant-based diet, and I'm 45 years old. I feel amazing. I'm also a part-time teacher, and I do notice the behavior of children, as these two ladies were nice to also say that it does affect them. I promise you. I've been a teacher since 1995, and I've never had a class this year with the worst behavior ever in my life. And I do believe it happens to have to do with food, 100%.
And possibly also with the genetically modified food and maybe the vaccinations as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you guys. And my dog is a vegan eagle. So it is possible for animals to be vegan as well. And Armaiti is my vegan vet.
Yeah, right. She's a definitely. And I just want to mention something that you made me think of, that the behavior of children, and it also extends to behavior in the community, so that even people who are involved in law enforcement might want to promote a vegan diet, because people just tend to be a little bit more peaceful and less inclined to get involved with behavior that is not good.
And Coming back from what Doug had mentioned about his dear friend, and I'm sorry for your loss, heart disease is an epidemic. 1 in 2 adult males is dying of a heart attack. And that's just never used to be such a high number before the animal product intake increased astronomically. One of the things you'll learn about when you watch Forks Over Knives documentary on Netflix, as well as forksoverknives.com, is that heart disease begins in childhood and it actually can be reversed, completely reversed with a plant-based diet. It's based on fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, as well as some nuts and seeds. And when you think about what makes food taste good, if you just had a slab of meat with no salt or spices added to it, it would taste nasty, even to the most ardent carnivore. Unless you're talking about a lion in the wild or a natural, true carnivore. We don't have the fangs and the apparatus that they do to take down a deer in the wild.
Yeah, we have a much longer digestive system, so it's meant to eat plant-based foods.
Yes. Our digestive tract, our teeth, our anatomy is designed to eat a mainly herbivorous diet. Now, ancestrally, there were points in history where meat eating allowed us to expand and travel farther distances for short periods of time. But at this point in history, we have come to a point where being vegan is not only a moral imperative, not only an ecological must, it is also imperative for our health and for the future of life on this planet.
And also to help people who don't have enough to eat, because all of the food that's being fed to animals could be fed directly to the hungry children in parts of the world. And there are millions of children under the age of 5 who die simply because they don't have enough to eat.
Yes, world hunger is a huge crisis that is 1.1 billion people are either malnourished or starving out of a planet of 7.2 billion people, which is a real disgrace because we could easily feed those hungry mouths if we switch to plant-based nutrition as the main form of nutrition. The amount of grain, soybeans, and corn that's fed to animals raised for food is ridiculous. It's 70% of the soybeans, corn, and grain that's raised in this country is fed to livestock.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a couple of things. I'm not quite a vegan yet. I'm not quite a vegan yet. I'm a vegetarian, but I'm trying to get there. And when I became a vegetarian 25 years ago, I was walking up the street and I felt much healthier. And I thought, that's weird. And I thought, oh, you're just thinking that, Kathy. But I went, no, I actually feel healthier. And, I'm 70 years old now. And, I want to get towards vegan. But I do feel healthy. I'm not on any medications. And the other thing is about not enough food in the world. Not only do I like, not creating, using too much of the land to make my food, but I also got these great glass containers that click shut really tight. My boyfriend Joe got it for me. And I take them to a restaurant, and I can't eat. The sizes they give you, I can't eat. So I put half of it in there, I take it home, and I have another whole meal. So I'm eating for half the price, and I'm not wasting food. And I started doing this because I look at restaurants, and people, they serve huge amounts of food, and people half their food, omelets, whatever, they take half the food on the plate, and they just throw it in the trash. So another thing we can do is take one of these good glass containers that's usable over and over and over again, and take them in a bag, small bag, whatever, to the restaurant, and bring home whatever we can eat. There you go. Food waste.
Yeah.
What is the difference for you between a vegetarian and a vegan? I haven't gotten off of eggs yet, and I try to get organic eggs, range-free, but I haven't quite gotten there. Because my understanding is that if you're a vegetarian, you're just eating vegetables. That's what I've been taught all my life. But my idea of veganism is something different. Not wearing leather, correct? Not wearing fur,
getting into a broader discussion here. So I think, yeah, that's fine. So she was saying, just to recap what Kathy said, that she still eats some eggs. I just want to address that really quickly, and then we can get to what you're saying. So eggs, of course, are from hens that lay them, and they are often force molted to induce artificially increased numbers of laying cycles, which depletes their body of calcium. The male chicks are gassed or crushed to death on their first day of life because they don't produce eggs, so they're of no monetary value to the egg industry. And even the so-called free-range facilities or humane certified facilities are very far from cruelty-free because they're still cutting their beaks with a hot blade without any anesthetic in a process known as debeaking, because they're kept so tightly crammed that they literally go crazy and peck each other to the point of insanity. And so to remedy this, instead of giving them more space, which is what they ought to do, they mutilate their bodies without painkillers. So it's a disgrace. There are plenty of humane alternatives that are vegan that can satisfy the need for eggs, whether it's scrambled tofu instead of scrambled eggs. There's also a product called the vegan egg that's been on the market for a while now. Follow Your Heart makes. You can make omelets. It's an agar-based, kind of a similar consistency to eggs can be created from that. And when you're baking, you can use flax seeds mixed with water instead of an egg. You can use banana, applesauce. There are plenty of alternatives that will fulfill whatever role that egg played in a particular recipe. So wanted to throw that out there. And again, everyone has their steps to take, and that's understandable, but for those that are wanting to take that extra step to eliminate cruelty and other negative things from their eating plan, there are those alternatives. Now, to address what you were saying about the difference between vegetarian and vegan, the word vegetarian pertains to the diet being comprised of plant matter. Now, there are different types of vegetarians. There are lacto-ovo-vegetarians who consume dairy and eggs. There are lacto-vegetarians who consume dairy products in addition to plant foods. There are ovo-vegetarians who consume eggs in addition to dairy products. Then there are what are called pure vegetarians, also vegans or total vegetarians that are completely plant-based. Now again, that's referring to their diet. When you talk about a vegan as in an ethical vegan, someone who follows a vegan lifestyle, that encompasses a philosophy of non-injury to all living beings, which is including abstaining from the eating of flesh and secretions, and also abstinence from support of exploitation of animals in the form of entertainment, so not attending circuses such as Ringling Brothers, which, by the way, is going to be going out of business in May. And they've been abusing elephants for decades or longer, probably lions, all kinds of animals. It also includes, a vegan lifestyle also includes abstinence from supporting industries that exploit animals for product testing, whether it's cosmetics, various medicines, and other items that may be tested on animals, which doesn't have to be the case. And there's a group called the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, or PCRM, and it's listed on your handout. They have a 21-day vegan kickstart, and they're really paving the way to creating innovative methods to test drugs that don't involve using animals, which, by the way, are also much more reliable and safer than animal-based methods. We could give a whole talk on that, but the animal testing that has gone on has actually caused a lot of human health crises and birth defects in the case of thalidomide that was tested on animals and deemed safe in animals and then caused horrific birth defects in pregnant women who took the drugs for morning sickness, many other examples. But just to answer your question, a vegan lifestyle includes concern for animals in all aspects of life, not just diet. Well, diet happens to be the most significant of those components because of the sheer numbers of animals involved. There's 70 billion animals killed for food worldwide every year.
And it's coming back to haunt us, with all the pollution that's going on. And there are many more facts that we could give you about what's going on. If you watch something like Cowspiracy, you'll get a lot of those facts. You know, and we're not getting all the facts in the news, for example. There was a fire in 2007 that burned 190,000 acres. I think it was in California. And it made big news. But every year, we lose 30 million acres in our rainforests, and nothing is mentioned in the news about it, even though it happens annually. So it's coming back to haunt us. And also, of course, we're living in an age where our population has increased a great deal from 100 years ago, where there was a lot of land and, you know, people could spread out, and, you know, the impacts of the wastes from animals, which are monumental, and the statistics on that are very shocking. You know, they produce like 20 times as much.
89,000 pounds of excrement is produced by turkeys, chickens, pigs, sheep, goats, and cows raised just in 1 second. Every second, 89,000 pounds of excrement.
And it's, you know, there are these lagoons that have the stuff in it, and people have to wear masks to manage it and so on. So it is coming back to people, you know, affecting their health. But, you know, but the fact is, though, also that a lot of people who go vegan don't just go for health reasons, and that should also be mentioned. They go because of some of the reasons that Armaiti just mentioned about caring about animals. And, you know, that's like the third big issue. There's the environment, there's human health, and there's also the issue of ethics, or not being cruel, and so on. And, you know, that's something that could be discussed at length also, and I know some people want to hear about it and we won't go into it, but that's definitely an issue. And some people also, you know, want to think of this in a spiritual way, because, you know, what we do comes back to us, and I have heard vegan people say that they feel safer, they have less fear because they're not harming animals, so now they don't feel like they're going to be harmed. Kind of is an empowering thing. It gives a person a certain, very special kind of confidence. And it just makes you more peaceful.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to just show a quick segment from Cowspiracy briefly. Did anyone want to say something?
Hey guys, me again. Okay. If you are taking notes, I just want to tell you something really easy. Write down this. Write it down this way. CHEW. 4 reasons to go vegan. Cruelty, health, environment, and world hunger. Cruelty, health, environment, world hunger. Chew. CHEW. If you do any of those, I'm sure we'll be very happy. It'll make the world a better place. We don't want to be part of this anymore. We don't want to be part of the cruelty anymore. We want to be part of the solution. That's why Armaiti and her mom are here tonight, and that's why we're all here listening. So thank you. It's just a really easy way of teaching other people. It's just, you know, I would want you to go vegan for ethical reasons personally, but any of those would be better. We could wipe out world hunger today if everybody would go vegan. We could wipe it out right now. Thanks.
Oh, did you mention the issue of the antibiotics?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, antibiotic resistance is a growing concern, and that is largely contributed to by antibiotic use in factory farms. They use it to fatten the animals faster. So thank you for bringing up that point.
Bacteria is becoming resistant.
A lot of bacterial resistance is happening, and antibacterial resistance. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, for that very important point. Yeah, that's very important, because a lot of people's lives may have been lost because there was no antibiotic that worked on them, because they had taken so much of this through their diet, and they have developed this resistance.
And it's getting worse. It's getting worse.
Yes,
and worse.
and we have the super
bugs,
yeah.
and they're having a harder time finding medications that are appropriate.
Hi, I'll just be real quick, since Sarah gave her little acronyms for CHEW, which I love acronyms to help me remember things. and since you were talking about antibiotics, one thing that I remember, like why you shouldn't eat animals is, and I made an acronym, I'm drawing like, I think it's SHAM, steroids, hormones, antibiotics, and I can't remember the fourth one. Oh, SHAPS. Wait,
Metals?
yeah.
Metals? Heavy metals?
No, I'm drawing a blank now. I'm on the spot. I'll think about it and I'll come back to it. Yeah. Thank you.
And you know, I'm glad you mentioned hormones because a lot of times you'll see ads that say no hormones. Well, that's actually false when they're talking about animal products because all animal products have hormones in them. They may or may not have added hormones, but they all have hormones. Make no mistake about it. We're talking about animal flesh or secretions that came from an animal who had hormones.
We're animals. We have hormones.
Oh, she thought of it.
It's SHAP, S-H-A-P, steroids, hormones, antibiotics, and pesticides.
Pesticides. That's right. Yes. Thank you.
That's a good point.
Okay, we got to wrap up.
I just want to say one very important thing to me personally as a teacher. Over the years, kids are growing up too fast physically. They're reaching puberty way too soon. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I see little girls in 3rd grade already starting to look like little ladies, and it makes me sad because they shouldn't have to deal with, you know, adult bodies so soon. And it is partly due to the hormones in the meat products they're ingesting. Of course, they may be genetically predisposed to it more than other people, and also there may be other reasons, just chemicals in our environment. But definitely going on a vegan diet would help these girls. And it even happens to boys. I mean, you even see men now with feminine features, so to speak. So, you know, there's a lot for us to think about.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for your attention, and I hope we continue this discussion going forward. If you want to check out my animal rights meetup group, United Animal Advocates of LA, UAALA.org. Feel free to join on Meetup and see us in the 3rd Street Promenade where we do vegan outreach leafleting. There's also a Vegan Toastmasters group, which I'm president of, vegantoastmasters.org if you want to practice your public speaking skills and get to know other vegans in the community. We meet the 1st and 3rd Sunday of every month from 3 to 4:30 in West LA, so check us out. And thank you so much. We're going to show a short little clip from Cowspiracy, which you can watch on Netflix.
Kaiser Permanente, that I belong to, they have a plant-based diet
programs now where you can come and learn how to eat a plant-based diet. Kaiser promotes it.
That is awesome. And I was recently informed by you, actually, that the American Dietetic Association has now completely approved the vegan diet for pregnant women.
And lactation and infancy, all stages of life.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Dhun. Great job. Armaiti, really wonderful. Thank you. Does anybody have one last question that they'd like to ask?
Yeah, I'd like to change the subject. You guys have been great. Thank you. To the vote, the election coming, or not the election, but we're having a vote coming up. March 7th, we're voting on a couple of issues. I was wondering if the Sierra Club had a stance, or if there's like a leaflet or something.
Well, yes on S.
Yes on S. Okay.
Are you asking about that as one, or?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, yes on S. Sierra Club did not take a position on it because it was kind of divided down the middle. Some of us really felt very strongly in favor of yes on S because it's been 20 years since there was a review of the standards for development. And so what the city council and the mayor have been doing is getting large contributions to feather their nest in exchange for giving a rubber stamp to these very large, humongous developments. And many of them are right up against neighborhoods. And there's not much space for trees or anything else. And so, you know, my position on it was for yes on yes. But there are other people that, the mayor and city council and many people that support them, that have never seen a big development that they didn't like. And the logic behind it is that it affects transportation. What they're trying to do is encourage people to take public transportation. The problem with the logic is that having people take public transportation is great, but the buildings they're building are for the very rich, and there's a glut of that on the market. We don't need them, and so consequently, those people that are going to rent in very expensive buildings, when we're talking $5,000, $10,000 a month, they're not riding public transportation, and so it's a little disingenuous. But that's anyway the logic of it.
The Sierra Club took no position on yes, okay, and they have endorsed Mike Bonin of the local district here for his re-election. Those are the two that I know of.
Okay, that's right.
Were you asking about a particular?
I was looking pretty much for that, yeah. I could have probably Googled it as well, but I figured out.
So I'm going to just play a little bit of Cowspiracy, just like 5 minutes, so that you can get a taste of it. As was said, you can download it for $4.95. You can also buy it, and I think you can, I believe that you can even get it on YouTube. And
Well, Netflix.
for Netflix. So anyway, it's a cheap way to go, and it's a really good reminder. And it's also politically, what it talks about, which I found really interesting, was the political appointment. What nonprofits didn't want to talk? That was good.
And it's a great movie to invite some friends over and to have them watch it with you, have a group. You can talk about it afterwards.
And it's scientifically based truth. It's not just made up stuff. It's scientifically proven.
Okay, I'm going to just play.
I wanted to visit one of these sustainable farms. I found a market-guard grass-fed beef farm on the lush, misty California coast. I met Eric and Donica Market-guard and their 4 children.
Leah and Larry are usually up at 6 and out, milking the cows, slopping the hogs. Altogether, we graze about 4,500 acres, and this is our home ranch, and this is 952 acres of that. On average, it's about 1 cow or cow and a calf per every 10 acres. We would produce annually roughly 80,000 pounds of finished plate-ready meat. We keep about 10 pigs in roughly a 50-acre area, and we move them around in 10-acre pastures.
Some people think that pigs are dirty and gross, but I really like them. They know people, and they'll be friends with them. They're nice. And they can be your best friend, or could be like sister. See, they know you. I mean, you get to know them. I mean, I shouldn't be bonding, but you have to have nice days.
Why shouldn't you bond with them?
Well, because they're going to start speaking.
These pigs are about 7 months old now. So these bigger ones are getting ready to be killed. Those 2 smaller ones there, you know, they could grow up a few more months.
I love animals, and that's why I'm in the meat business.
It's what more of society needs to see, is that packaged piece of meat is a living animal, living, breathing creature that, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. But like what Dominic said earlier, we do it because we love them.
With the land base, there's anywhere with industrial as well as 2 to 2.5 acres per cow, all the way up to some, depending, it's not as lush as this, up to 35 acres.
Yeah, we have a ranch in South Dakota that's 50 acres. Yeah, it's not 50 acres, yeah.
And why is
that? Same thing, it was just farmed and robbed of all the nitrogen, you know.
It's also seasonal, right?
It's also seasonal.
Is it possible, and is it practical for the whole world to, say, grow grass-fed cattle? And like, say, Brazil, where 80%, was it 80% of the rainforest was destroyed for cattle?
We're just going to switch to a different segment now, briefly. That was to illustrate that even the so-called sustainable farms are not what they're made out to be as far as the acreage involved, and of course the disconnect with the animals.
And the more sustainable ones are the ones that are connected to the cows are worse in terms of land usage and so on. So there's like a problem.
This is illustrating how the nonprofit groups are hypocritical to what we're about to show. No? You see them. This is just the intro for Cowspiracy.
The world's climate scientists tell us that the highest safe level of emissions would be around 350 parts per million of carbon dioxide, greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. We're already at 400. They tell us that the sort of safest we could hope to do without having perilous implications as far as drought, famine, human conflict, major species extinction would be about a 2 degrees Celsius increase in temperature. We're rapidly approaching that, and with all the built-in carbon dioxide that's already in the atmosphere, we're easily going to exceed that. So on our watch, we are facing the next major extinction of species on the Earth that we haven't seen since the time of the dinosaurs disappearing. When whole countries go underwater because of sea level rise, when whole countries find that there's so much drought that they can't feed their population, and as a result they need to desperately migrate to another country or invade another country, we're going to have climate wars in the future.
And what about livestock and animal agriculture?
Well, what about?
So it gives you a picture for the disconnect in some environmental groups, but I'm so happy that you all can see that today. Thank you.
There is some controversy with regard to climate change and so on, but nevertheless, the basic facts about the extreme environmental damage from the livestock industry is absolutely indisputable.
So I'd like to just change subjects. When all of you got the notice today, or yesterday again, a reminder for this meeting, I sent out 2 things. One was a picture of the watershed, which is back there. See it behind you, it's a large 4 by 4 foot watershed. And for me, it was really an education in doing it, because what I discovered is that there's some really huge opportunities for better lifestyle in LA and our watershed. And so, you don't necessarily have to look at it tonight, but know that Beverly Hills, part of Santa Monica, West Hollywood, Culver City, and and Englewood. Anyway, there are major cities that have their own charter that are within our watershed. And then there's parts of LA and parts of LA County like we're in right now. The other thing is that we're going to be faced very quickly with an EIR, an environmental impact report and statement. And what is happening with that and why it's so important for you to watch the 12-minute video that I sent out is because it explains things that you really need to know before we face the environmental impact report. And among those things is that Playa Vista alone is sending out to sea, or to the Hyperion plant, one or the other, between 1 million and 2 million gallons of water every day. Every day. And you need to know that because we're talking about doing dredging in the Ballona wetlands, and 70% of it, the proposal is to dig it out by 25 feet and then mound about 25 to 30 feet along Culver Boulevard and other places, okay? And the logic for that is that we always had a tidal wetland. That meant that forever the ocean has been coming into the wetlands. And all of the plans that they're talking about doing, methods for supposed restoration, all are based on the fact that we have open tidal flow. That means that the ocean comes in on a regular basis. And Travis Longcore with USC and Margot Griswold are both wetlands experts. They've studied this backwards, forwards, and sideways. And the reality is, this was never a tidal wetland. It was always just an occasional, maybe in a huge flood, maybe every 10 or 15 years or something like that, there would be salt water that would come in. But it wasn't a regular thing. And I need for you guys to watch this and understand it. The other thing that's really important about this, I mean, we could have made it 5 hours to explain it, but the bottom line is what we tried to do is to explain it in just 12 minutes what the problem and the opportunity is. The watershed contains several reservoirs, which you'll see some of them in the video. It also, when you look through it, what you're going to find is that the central LA area, which is the center of the watershed, our watershed starts at the top of Mulholland. And anything that's at the top of Mulholland south drains down and eventually ends up in Ballona Creek. Anything that is on the north side of the watershed goes into the LA River. So when we're talking about this watershed, it's 130 square miles. It's a lot of space. In the center of it, our top of our watershed includes the bottom of Griffith Park, believe it or not. And at Griffith Park, what you'll learn by watching the video is that in the first mile, you can walk the Ballona Creek in Griffith Park. And it starts at the observatory, you know, and you can go down for a mile, and that area is accessible by Western, and you go to Los Feliz and you can park there. If you park at Los Feliz, Ferndale, and Western, then you can take a mile hike up the hill to the observatory. And I heartily recommend it. I mean, it really helps you to understand what we're dealing with here. Now, once you start coming down from Ferndale and you go through Western or you go down La Brea or any of those places, when you're in the thick of that, Jessica Hall, who wrote Seeking Streams and who visualized creating a greenway along that 10 miles of various streams.
We need to wrap up.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, what you need to know is that the center of the city there is as dense as Calcutta. And so we need parks. And so part of this, you just need to look at the video and try to understand what's going on in preparation for what's happening when the EIR comes out. Because they're going to be trying to sell dredging. And what we're saying is, no, there's a lot of animals and life out there, and let's keep it. So anyway, please have a look at it if you have time. Just take 12 minutes.
Jeff did a great job.
Thank you all for coming. I hope this is out next time. Next time, Patricia McPherson, who has been working particularly on the water loss by Playa Vista, that 1 million to 2 million gallons, will be speaking, and it will be interesting. Thanks a lot.